It was the year 2074 when everything changed for Earth. Not because of war, not because of a new invention, but because someone out there finally answered us back. For centuries, humans had been sending signals into space. We sent music, pictures, even messages of peace. But for the longest time, we only heard silence. And silence can feel like loneliness. Then one day, a signal came in. A message. It wasn't just noise or something random. This was clear, organized, intelligent. Scientists all over the world stopped what they were doing. The message was studied, translated, and confirmed. We are watching you. We are ready to speak. The whole planet held its breath. Governments met in secret. Scientists worked nonstop. People everywhere talked about it, on TV, online, even at dinner tables. Was this real? Were we really not alone? Months passed. Then, one morning, people woke up and looked to the sky. There, floating, above the Pacific Ocean, was a ship unlike anything ever built by humans. It was smooth, glowing, and silent. No engines, no fire, just power. And then the message came again. We are the Galactic Council. We come in peace. At first, no one knew what to do. Some countries wanted to fight. Others wanted to run. But most people wanted to know the truth. So the Galactic Council did something smart. They didn't land in one place. They didn't demand surrender or make threats. Instead, they visited leaders in many different countries. Russia, Japan, Kenya, Brazil, Canada, and more. They spoke with presidents, scientists, and even children. They asked questions. They listened. And slowly, trust began to grow. One thing became clear. Humanity was special. We were loud, messy, and sometimes cruel. But we were also creative, loving, and full of hope. Still, the Galactic Council said we weren't quite ready to join their group yet. They told Earth that if we could prove we could live together in peace, care for our planet, and learn from others, then maybe one day we could be part of something bigger. But they also made an offer. They wanted one human to come with them, to live among the stars, learn from other worlds, and speak for Earth. This person would be called the human envoy. Thousands applied. From every country, every background. Some were soldiers, some were scientists, some were famous politicians. But after months of tests, interviews, and hard choices, only one name remained: Dr. Elena Morales. Elena was born in Santiago, Chile. Her parents were school teachers who believed in kindness and learning. She grew up reading books about space, stars, and aliens. She used to dream about flying to other planets and meeting beings from far away. She worked hard, studied hard, and never gave up. She learned science, languages, and how to talk to people, even when they disagreed. By the time she was 35, she had helped solve climate problems, taught students across the world, and even spoken at the United Nations. When she found out she was chosen as the human envoy, she didn't scream or cry. She smiled, looked up at the stars, and whispered, "I'm coming home." Before she left, Elena trained for over a year. She had to learn how to live in space, how to talk to aliens, how to survive if things went wrong. She practiced speaking with creatures that didn't have mouths. She watched videos of alien cultures. She even learned how to eat food that looked like jelly. Some people warned her, they might trick you. They might not be peaceful. You could be walking into a trap. But Elena believed in something stronger than fear. She believed in trust. She believed in peace. She believed in change. Her mission was simple, but huge. Learn everything she could about the Galactic Council. Tell them about Earth, our beauty, our pain, and our dreams. Ask for help. Clean energy, better medicine, safer technology. Make sure Earth stayed free and respected. She knew it wouldn't be easy. But she also knew someone had to try. On a bright morning in March 2076, Elena stood on a launch pad in French Guiana. The sun was shining, birds were singing, the air felt electric. Around the world, millions watched on screens. Kids wore shirts with her face. Parents hugged their children tighter. Everyone knew this was history. As she climbed aboard the spacecraft, she waved. Then the countdown began. 3, 2, 1. With a soft hum, the ship lifted off. No smoke, no explosions, just light and speed. Within hours, she reached orbit. There, waiting for her, was the Galactic shuttle, shaped like a jellyfish and glowing softly. She stepped inside. The walls pulsed with color. Music played. Not from speakers, but from the very air. Aliens greeted her. Some were tall, some were short, some had scales, some floated. All were curious. A voice translated everything into perfect English. Welcome, Envoy Morales. You are the first human to walk these halls. May your journey bring wisdom and unity. Celestria. Station was amazing. It orbited a distant moon and was powered by a black hole battery. Rooms changed shape based on your thoughts. Food was grown instantly. Learning happened through dreams. Elena met beings from dozens of worlds. Some were peaceful traders. Others were ancient warriors. There were even robots who had become smarter than their creators. Every day, she shared stories of Earth, our music, art, nature, and history. She showed videos of oceans, forests, cities, and deserts. She talked about Shakespeare, Gandhi, Einstein, and Malala. In return, the aliens shared their knowledge. They taught her about wormholes, quantum healing, and how to communicate with plants. Slowly, Elena became more than just a diplomat. She became a bridge between worlds. Many aliens began to respect her. Some even called her Mother Star because she brought warmth and light wherever she went. But not everyone liked her. One powerful leader, High Executor Varnak of the Zolari species, viewed humans as dangerous and unpredictable. He believed Earth should not be allowed into the Council until it proved itself. Varnak was tall, green, and cold-eyed. His voice was sharp like broken glass. He often argued with Elena during meetings. He said, "Your people fight each other. Your planet is dying. Why should we trust you?" Elena always answered calmly, "Because we are trying, because we know our mistakes, and because we believe in change." Still, Varnak kept watching her, waiting for a reason to act. Others agreed with him. Some whispered behind closed doors. Some planned in secret. Elena didn't know it yet, but danger was growing in the shadows. Even though she faced challenges, Elena never gave up. She kept working, learning, and teaching. She made friends among the stars. She inspired young aliens to study Earth culture. She even helped stop a war between two rival species by showing them a movie. E.T., the Extraterrestrial. People laughed. Tension eased. Peace returned. She was not just an envoy. She was a symbol of hope. And so, the first chapter of her story ended, not with a goodbye, but with a beginning. But little did she know. The next chapter would change everything, forever. Elena had been on Celestria Station for over a year now. She had learned more than she ever thought possible, about stars, planets, life beyond Earth, and even herself. She had made friends among the stars, shared stories from home, and helped bring peace where there was once fear, but not everyone welcomed her presence. High Executor Varnak had never trusted humans. To him, Earth was too wild, too unpredictable. He saw Elena not as a bridge, but as a threat, a symbol of what he feared most, that humans might one day rise above their limits and stand equal with the greatest civilizations in the galaxy. He wasn't alone in his doubts. Some members of the Galactic Council believed Earth wasn't ready. They argued that humans were still violent, greedy, and careless with their own planet. They whispered behind closed doors, asking the same question again and again. Why should we give them power if they haven't learned to use it wisely? Elena knew this resistance existed, but she also believed in dialogue, in patience, and in hope. So she kept working. She kept showing who humanity truly was. Not perfect, but full of heart. Then came the vote. The Galactic Council was considering a new rule. Any planet that wished to join the Alliance would have to give up control of its natural resources. The council would manage them for the good of the galaxy. It sounded noble, peaceful, responsible. But to Elena, it felt like control. She stood before the council and spoke. You say you want to protect us, but what you are really doing is taking away our right to grow. You are telling us we can only be part of your world if we surrender ours. There was silence. Then Varnak rose. And who will stop us, Envoy Morales? Who will stop the council when it acts for the greater good? Elena looked at him, calm but firm. No one should have that much power over another world, not you, not me, not anyone. That moment changed everything. After the meeting, things began to shift. At first, it was subtle. Some aliens stopped greeting her, others avoided her completely. Invitations to discussions were quietly canceled. Her access to certain areas of the station was reduced. She was being watched. At night, she could feel eyes on her. Shadows moved where there should have been none. Messages she sent were delayed or lost. Even her food started tasting different, just enough to make her wonder. Still, she didn't run, she didn't hide. She stayed because she knew someone had to stand for Earth, even if it meant standing alone. One evening, she was called to a private meeting with the High Council. Only a few members were present. Varnak was there, of course. So was Lady Syra, a wise alien from a peaceful species, and others whose faces she had come to trust. They sat in a dark room, lit only by floating lights shaped like stars. Varnak began. Envoy Morales, we believe you are hiding something. Elena blinked. Hiding what? You have been sharing knowledge with unauthorized beings, he said. You have taught other species how to build human technology. You have encouraged independence among those who should follow the Council's guidance. Elena shook her head. I only taught what I was allowed to. I only shared ideas so others could learn. Lady Syra looked at her with sadness. There are rules, Elena. Rules meant to protect all worlds. Elena looked around the room. And who protects the smaller worlds from the powerful ones? Who gives a voice to the ones who are told to stay silent? Varnak leaned forward. You are no longer welcome here. Elena's breath caught. What does that mean? It means, he said coldly, that you are under arrest. The guard stepped in. Two tall, armored figures entered the room. Their weapons glowed with energy. One of them grabbed Elena's arm. She didn't resist. She only looked at the faces. Around her, some sad, some angry, some afraid. This isn't justice, she whispered. This is fear. They took her to a small room deep inside the station. No windows, no light. Just silence. Days passed. Maybe weeks. Time blurred. Sometimes. She heard voices outside the door. Sometimes nothing at all. She tried to stay strong. She thought of Earth, of her parents, of the children who had drawn pictures of her flying to the stars. She thought of the oceans, the forests, the deserts, all of it, waiting for her return. She remembered the message she had received before leaving. You are not going to conquer space. You are going to understand it. And now she was being punished for understanding too much. One night, the door opened. A soft glow filled the room. A figure stepped inside. It was Lady Syra. She held a small device in her hand. I don't agree with what's happening, she whispered. You deserve better than this. Elena looked at her. Then help me. Syra hesitated. If I do this, I will be seen as a traitor. Elena reached out. Then be a traitor to fear. Be loyal to truth. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then slowly Syra pressed a button on the device. The door behind her opened. Freedom, but not safety. Elena stepped out. They moved quickly through the halls. Lights flickered. Alarms buzzed in the distance. They reached a shuttle bay. Inside waited a small ship. Not flashy, not fast, but real. Syra turned to her. This will take you back to Earth, but once you leave, you may never be allowed to return. Elena looked into her eyes. Then let this be my gift. Let them know that even when you close a door, a window will always open. She climbed aboard. The engines roared. With a flash of light, she was gone. Back on Earth, no one knew what had happened. Weeks passed, then months. Rumors spread. Some said she had been killed. Others said she had betrayed the council. Some believed she was still alive, hiding somewhere in space. But then, one night, something strange happened. Across the world, people reported seeing lights in the sky. Not meteors, not planes. Something else. And then, from the stars, a signal came. It was simple, just 3 words, and I'm coming home. The ship had landed in the Andes Mountains, far from any city. The sky was dark. The stars were bright. She stepped out slowly, breathing fresh air for the first time in months. It felt like coming home after a long dream, but she wasn't safe. Yet, the Galactic Council had seen her signal. They knew she had returned, and they would not let her go so easily. She sent one message before hiding the ship deep in a cave. They lied to us. They don't want peace. They want control. That message spread fast. At first, only a few scientists and diplomats believed it. Then more. Then the whole world. People began asking questions. Why did the Galactic Council arrest Elena? What were they hiding? Was their offer of peace just another way to rule? Soon, protests started. In every corner of the globe, people raised signs that said, "We are not alone. We are not afraid." Truth over silence. Elena is our voice. Governments met in secret. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to hide, but most wanted answers. And then, something strange happened. The sky changed. Storms began to form where there should have been clear skies. Earthquakes shook places that hadn't felt tremors in centuries. The oceans rose higher than expected. Even animals began to act strangely. Birds flying in circles, whales beaching themselves, dogs howling at nothing. Something was wrong. Scientists called it a fluke. Politicians called it panic. But Elena knew better. She had seen it before. When emotions run high, when fear mixes with hope, when a planet feels pain or pride, the energy of life itself shifts. Earth was responding, not just to Elena's return, but to what she had done. Elena went into hiding. She traveled across the world, meeting those who still believed in truth. She spoke to scientists, farmers, teachers, soldiers, and even children. She told them everything. About the Galactic Council, about Varnak, about the lies and the fear. Some didn't believe her. Some thought she had gone mad. But many listened. And some even joined her cause. A movement began. It started small. A group of engineers in Nairobi built new ways to clean the air. Farmers in India grew food without chemicals. Cities in Europe powered themselves using sunlight and wind. More than technology, it was spirit that spread. Hope. Unity, change. And then came the next signal. This time it wasn't from Elena. It was from space. The Galactic Council had returned, and this time they weren't alone. Elena watched from a hidden base in Antarctica as the ships arrived. Dozens of them. They hovered above major cities: New York, Tokyo, London, Beijing, Sydney. Silent, waiting. Then came the message. Envoy. Morales, you have broken the laws of the Galactic Council. You will be taken into custody. Surrender now or face consequences. The world held its breath. World leaders debated. Should they hand her over? Should they fight? Should they hide? No one knew what to do, until Elena made the choice herself. She stepped forward, not in battle, but in broadcast. She stood before a camera, looked straight into the lens, and spoke to the entire galaxy. I am not your prisoner. I am not your enemy. I am the voice of a planet that refuses to be silenced. If you come here with force, know this. You will not find weakness. You will find fire. The message was sent to every human, every alien, every being who could hear. And then, the sky lit up. It started with lightning. Massive storms formed over every continent. Not normal thunderstorms. These were wild, unnatural. Lightning struck in patterns. Winds blew in directions that defied physics. Tectonic plates shifted beneath the sea. Tsunamis rose, but never reached land. Instead, they turned back, as if guided by an unseen force. Animals stopped running. They stood still, watching the sky. And then came the sound. Low at first, like a heartbeat, then louder, deeper. It wasn't just sound. It was the voice of Earth, not literal. Not magic, but real. Humanity had awakened something ancient, something buried in the core of the planet. A force tied to life itself, to memory, to emotion, to survival. And now, it was awake. Elena felt it too. A warmth in her chest, a pull in her bones, as if the planet was speaking directly to her. She closed her eyes and whispered, "We are ready." And the world responded. In every country, people began to feel it. A connection, a power, a sense of unity they had never known. Children drew pictures of glowing trees. Elders remembered dreams they had forgotten. Soldiers laid down weapons. Enemies shook hands. Something bigger than all of them had begun, and it was growing. The Galactic Council saw it. Their ships began to shake. Systems failed. Lights flickered. Their shields weakened. They had faced warships before. They had fought battles across galaxies, but they had never faced a planet that felt. Varnak stood on his command deck, staring at the screen. His voice was cold. "This is impossible." Lady Sira, who had secretly helped Elena escape, stood beside him. "No," she said softly. "It is inevitable." He turned to her. "What do you mean?" She looked at the swirling storms, the glowing lights, the trembling earth. "You tried to control a species that learns, that grows, that loves, and now the planet itself has chosen them." Varnak clenched his fists. "Then we destroy them." Before he could give the order, a shockwave hit the fleet, not from weapons, from the Earth itself. A pulse of pure energy surged through the atmosphere. Ships spun out of control. Communications died. Engines failed. One by one, the alien vessels were forced to retreat. And then silence. The sky cleared. The winds calmed. The storms faded. And for the first time in history, Earth stood tall. Not as a victim, not as a pawn, but as a force. Elena stood outside, looking up at the stars. She smiled, because she knew this was only the beginning and the world would never be the same again. The silence after the storm was louder than any war cry. Earth had done something no other planet had ever done. It had stood up, not with weapons or armies, but with something far stronger: unity, memory, and life itself. But peace never lasts long when power is at stake. The Galactic Council had fled, but they would not forget what had happened. Varnak, humiliated and furious, returned to his homeworld of Zelar Prime. He spoke before thousands of warriors, his voice shaking with rage. "We were wrong about them. We thought they were weak. We thought they needed guidance. But now we know the truth. They are dangerous. And if we do not act, they will rise above us all." Some believed him. Others, like Lady Syra, saw things differently. She looked at the stars and whispered, "Maybe it is time for us to learn from them." But Varnak had already made his choice. He would return. And next time he would not ask. He would take. Back on Earth, people were still trying to understand what had happened. The storms had stopped. The sky was clear. But everything felt different. Animals didn't run from humans anymore. Trees glowed faintly at night. Some people said they could hear voices in the wind. Not ghosts, not spirits, but something older. Something deep inside the earth. Scientists called it a planetary consciousness. Others called it a miracle. A few called it madness. But Elena knew Earth had awakened, and so had humanity. People began to change. They started seeing things they couldn't explain, dreams that came true, feelings that warned them of danger before it arrived. Some could even move small objects with their minds. Others could heal wounds just by touching someone. It wasn't magic. It was evolution, and it was happening fast. Elena traveled across the world, meeting those who were changing. In India, she met a young girl who could talk to plants. In Brazil, a man who could feel earthquakes before they happened. In Japan, a boy who could see memories in the air, like echoes of the past floating around him. They were scared at first, but Elena told them, "You are not alone. You are not broken. You are the future." Together they formed a new group. Not soldiers, not scientists, not politicians, just people who felt connected to something bigger. They called themselves the New Kin, and they were growing. But not everyone welcomed this change. Fear spread faster than hope. Some governments tried to control the new kin. Others wanted to study them. A few even wanted to lock them away. Rumors turned into panic. One country built walls around cities where many of the changed lived. Another passed laws saying they couldn't travel or vote. Some towns drove them out. Elena watched in horror as fear turned against her own people. She gave speeches. She begged leaders to stop. She reminded them of what Earth had done together. But fear is louder than reason. And soon, the world began to fall apart again. Then came the signal, not from space from beneath the sea, a deep pulsing sound that only some could hear. It came from the ocean floor near the Mariana Trench. Elena felt it in her bones. She gathered a team and flew to the Pacific. There, in a hidden research base, they found it. A massive structure buried under miles of water. It looked ancient, yet alive. Glowing lines ran through its walls like veins. When Elena touched it, she saw visions, images of Earth long ago. Beings taller than mountains walking across continents, oceans rising and falling like breath, and then a message. "We remember you." She fell to her knees. The Earth was not just alive. It was ancient, older than the stars. And it had been waiting. Back on land, chaos grew. The new kin were being hunted. Governments argued, protests turned into riots. Soldiers fired on crowds, and then the sky darkened again. Not from clouds, from ships. The Galactic Council had returned. This time, they brought an army. Dozens of warships hovered above major cities. This time, they did not send messages. They sent warnings. "Hand over Elena Morales. Hand over the new kin, or we will take them ourselves." Panic spread like fire. Some countries agreed to give up the changed ones. Others refused. Some fought back. War was coming, and Earth was about to tear itself apart. Elena stood on a cliff overlooking the ocean. She looked at the sky filled with alien ships. She looked at the burning cities below. She looked at the glowing trees, the whispering winds, the children who could dream the future. And she made a choice. She stepped forward, not to fight, not to hide, but to speak. She opened a global broadcast. Millions watched. Aliens listened. She looked straight into the camera and said, "You want me? Then come and take me. But know this, I am not your enemy. The real enemy is fear, and it lives in all of us." She turned to the sky. "Varnak, if you think you can break us, then strike. But know this, every drop of blood spilled today will be answered tenfold, not by weapons, not by war, but by the Earth itself." She closed her eyes and waited. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground shook. Not from bombs, from something deeper. The Earth responded. Light burst from the oceans. Trees glowed brighter than ever. The sky turned gold, and from the depths of the planet a voice echoed, not loud but strong. "Enough." And everything stopped. Ships froze midair, weapons powered down, soldiers dropped their guns, even the wind held its breath. Something had changed, not just in the sky, but in every heart. Let me know if you'd like. Part 5. The final chapter, where everything comes together and Earth faces its greatest test. Just say the word and I'll send it right away. The silence after the voice was deeper than any before it. It wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. It was the kind of silence that made your heart stop, the kind that made you feel small, not because you were weak, but because you were standing at the edge of something ancient and true. And then the earth moved, not in anger, not in pain, but in peace. From deep beneath the oceans, from the roots of the tallest trees, from the bones of the mountains, light began to rise. It came slowly at first, like fireflies waking up in the dark. Then faster, stronger, brighter. The sky turned golden. The winds carried songs no one had ever heard. Trees glowed with soft blue flames that did not burn. Rivers shimmered like liquid stars. It was as if the planet itself had opened its eyes, and for the first time in history, every living thing felt it. Together, alive. 1. Elena stood on the cliff, her hair blowing in the wind. She looked up at the alien ships frozen in the sky. She looked down at the cities below, where people were staring outside, some crying, some laughing, some just standing still in wonder. She could feel it too. Not just the power, but the presence. The earth was speaking not in words and feeling. It said, "I remember you." And humanity remembered back. They remembered the forests they had cut, the animals they had lost, the rivers they had poisoned, the skies they had filled with smoke, and they remembered the love too, the gardens they had planted, the babies they had held, the hands they had held when someone cried, the songs they had sung under the stars, all of it, everything, and now the earth knew. Back on the alien ships, panic spread. Systems failed, lights flickered. Beings who had never felt fear suddenly did. Varnak stood on his command deck watching. Helplessly as his warriors dropped to their knees, even he felt it, a pressure in his chest, a pull in his mind. He tried to speak, but his voice wouldn't come. Lady Sierra stepped beside him. "You see now," she whispered. "This is not magic. This is not war. This is what we feared most." He looked at her. "What is it?" She smiled softly. "It's what we forgot." Then she turned to the window and watched as the golden light wrapped around the ships like a gentle hand. It did not push. It did not fight. It simply said, "Go." One by one the alien ships turned. Some left fast, some left slow, but all left. Even Varnak's flagship lifted into the sky and vanished into the stars. Only silence remained, and the light, and the people. On Earth, life changed. Not overnight, not perfectly, but deeply. People stopped fighting over land, over oil, over gold. They started caring about things that mattered: water, air, each other. Cities began to grow green roofs. Cars ran on sunlight. Schools taught children how to listen, not just to teachers, but to the wind, to the trees, to the quiet spaces inside themselves. And the new kin, they were no longer hunted. They were no longer alone. They became guides, teachers, healers. They showed others how to feel the earth again, how to dream with it, how to grow with it. Years passed, decades. Elena grew older. She lived quietly near the Andes, where she had first returned. Every morning she walked among the trees. Every night she looked at the stars. Sometimes she would sit with children and tell them stories. Stories of space, of aliens, of courage, and always of hope. She told them, "We are not perfect. We make mistakes, we hurt, we forget. But we also learn, we change, we rise." And they listened. Because they believed her, because they saw the proof all around them. One day, a new signal came. Soft, friendly, not from above, but from below. Deep in the ocean, near the glowing structure, something stirred. It was not a weapon, not a monster, just a voice. "We are ready." Elena smiled. She knew what it meant. The Earth had chosen, not to hide, not to fight, but to speak, to share, to teach, and maybe, one day, to travel. So, the world changed, not because of war, not because of fear, but because of one woman, one choice, one moment when humanity decided to stand tall, and the Earth stood with them.